Coming up on today's show.
You don't necessarily need to be shopping for things. You need to be bringing them into your life for the duration of the trip.
So that was the list of all other stuff, but I think we still have some more lists, don't we?
And then padded it in her suitcase so that even if it did break, it wouldn't spill all over.
Essential lists for organized travel today on Keeping You Organized. Hello, welcome to Keeping You Organized. It is travel season, and regardless of where you're going, it's always good to have a list. But no, this show we're going to talk about several different kinds of lists with the list queen herself, Julie Bestry. Julie, welcome to Keeping You Organized.
Hi, John. It's great to be here.
Well, when we talked about the idea for this show, and then you came up, well, there's this kind of list and this kind of list, I go, wow, that's a lot of lists. But lists are like, those are the essentials for organizers, right? So if we can get it on a list, we can get it done, right?
That's right. And so many people may have one master list, but it's hard to find what they need, or they have lots of little Post-it notes all over. But we're really going to talk about the essential lists that are going to ensure that you're going to be able to accommodate and take care of everything you need to do.
Now, there is a little backstory to this, right? Maybe a personal story on how you came up with the concept for all these lists?
Yes, when Leanne was asking what I'd like to talk about, I said, well, I went to Italy last September, one of those big once-in-a-lifetime trips. And while I have helped my clients for years pack for trips and plan for trips, Italy was definitely going to be a novelty for me. So that was going to require really honing what were the essential things to bring and make sure I accomplished everything I needed to do before the trip. So I feel really prepared to talk about this today.
All right. Well, we've got, I think, 5 different categories or kinds of lists. So let's dig into it right now. What's the first list we want to consider?
Okay. Well, your first list is, what do you want to acquire? And notice I say acquire and not buy. You don't necessarily need to be shopping for things. You need to be bringing them into your life for the duration of the trip. So, some of us, before we go to a conference or a big trip, we go out shopping for a lot of new clothes. Let's hold off on that. But the bigger thing is, if you're going to need something that you don't normally have for a trip, for example, my Italy trip, I was going to need electronics converters and adapters with those Italy-specific prongs. If you've ever looked at those adapters, there are different prongs for every country.
Right.
But because I don't travel abroad all the time, I was able to put out the word to my friends who do travel, and I was able to borrow one of those. Same things with those little binoculars so that you can see all the way to the top of the Sistine Chapel, because you're not really going to be able to see that just with your eyes. A bungee cord laundry line to hang up in your hotel bathroom. These are things that you don't necessarily need to go out and buy. It's great to borrow from friends who are more likely to have these things because they travel more than you do.
Yeah, so how do you go on Facebook or something and just put, hey, look, looking for an adapter for Italy. Anyone got one kind of thing? Or
Absolutely. What I did was I went through and I read a variety of lists, which I think we'll talk about later, online. You have some great lists at Smead.com, but I found lists of things that I might need, then talked to friends and said, okay, this is what I think I'm going to need. And they're like, oh, you can't take a hairdryer to Europe, because even with an adapter, it's going to blow up. So, I got this great information, then went out onto Facebook and Twitter and to some of my in-person groups. And I said, hey guys, anybody have one of these things that I can use? I didn't want to necessarily buy an inflatable neck pillow because I wasn't sure I was going to need it. But borrowing one let me know, yeah, inflatable, not my thing. I want one filled with like the little beanbag sort of thing.
Right.
So making your list of what to acquire. And I should say, all of these lists that we're going to make, it doesn't matter whether you keep them in writing or digitally. I like using Trello. You can go to Trello.com, but you can also use Post-it notes on a wall or on a mirror and just start making, anytime you have a random idea of something that you need to acquire, you can smack that up on your blank wall in your guest room, and that'll help you start preparing until you have honed your lists to figure out exactly what you want.
And there's probably, even if you go on to Google and say things I need in Israel, or things I need in Italy, or what should I bring to France, you're going to probably find someone travel blog or something where they've said, oh, you got to do this and have these things in place, which is kind of wild too.
Absolutely. And it's not just location-based travel. I had a friend who was going to be going on a 5-day bike trip. And this was going to require camping at night, things for taking care of the bike during the day. And so again, Google is your friend, and going into groups, whether it's a sporting group or a group on Facebook, and looking at what other people have to say about these topics is really helpful. You never have to reinvent the wheel.
Awesome. All right. Does that cover what we need for lists of what to acquire?
For what to acquire.
Yes. Okay.
So once you know what you've got, your next list is going to be your list of what to pack in terms of clothing and accessories.
Let's hold that thought right now, because we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about that list here with Julie Bestry, and we'll be right back. It's the summer sale at myorganize.life with 25% off office products like file folders, hanging folders, accordion files, and presentation products. You can get it at myorganize.life. That's myorganize.life. 25% off all products. It's our summer sale at myorganize.life. We're back now on Keeping You Organized, talking about essential lists for organized travel. We have professional organizer Julie Bestry with us. And Julie, so we covered the things to acquire list. We teased them with list number 2, so now let's dig into that.
Okay, so that's your clothing and your accessories. Okay. And the first thing I'm going to say is don't take anything on a trip that you would be upset to lose. I have a friend who is always losing earrings and various pieces of jewelry when she travels. So I've told her, just buy some fun costume jewelry and wear that. Don't pack accessories. Unless you're going to a special event like a wedding, don't pack something just for your random sightseeing trip that you would be upset to lose because the backing fell off. Right. So in terms of clothing, you're going to start with your schedule. You're going to look, John, if you're going to meet the queen, you need a ball gown.
Yes, I'd look good in a ball gown too, I think.
I figured you would. Well, I listened to another show you were doing about talking about wearing a bikini. So
you did? Okay, good. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. So I'm not. So
boy, people are going to. Where do I find that episode? Okay.
But if you're going to a conference, you're mostly going to be wearing business clothes. But we just had our NAPO conference, and we went to Fort Worth, and people went to the rodeo. So you're probably not going to wear conference clothes if you're going to the rodeo.
Right.
So you want to look at your itinerary, figure out what you are definitely going to need, and then look at the possibilities. You're going to need something different for a hiking trip than you are for a beach vacation. I know that when I was at the Coliseum, I was seeing people walking up and down those steps in sandals. And I have to say, I was glad I had some grippy bottomed shoes because those are some steep steps. So you're going to start with looking at your schedule. Don't forget to look at the weather. As you get closer to your departure day, you're going to want to look at a few different weather apps and look at the 10-day forecast, because it might be 80 degrees at night, but if you're going to be in the desert, it could be 80 degrees during the day, it could be 40 degrees at night. So you want to make sure that you're checking the 10-day out weather forecast to make sure you've covered all of your bases.
Right.
And the one other thing about traveling, again, internationally is you need to be culturally sensitive. So, for example, if you go into certain religious sites, you have to have your shoulders and your legs covered. And I was surprised to find that that's not just true of women having their shoulders covered, but that men are expected not to wear shorts in certain religious sites and to be wearing either trousers or, they can borrow what basically looks like a beach cover up to cover their legs. So it's important to familiarize yourself with any of the culturally sensitive clothing requirements of wherever you're going.
All right. So that brings us now to list number 3.
That's everything else, everything that's not clothing and accessories. Okay. So you may consider yourself low maintenance. John, are you low maintenance?
No, absolutely not. I'm so super high maintenance, and it's irritating sometimes to the people who travel with me.
So, I learned that I couldn't take all of my hair care products. I always joke that it takes a lot of electricity to look this mainstream and average, but I knew I couldn't take my hair dryer or my hair curlers. And so I had to think, okay, what was I willing to have as a trade-off? Carry fewer things because, we do have pound limitations. Traveling domestically, you get charged if you have more than 50 pounds in your luggage. It's, I believe, 44 pounds if you're traveling on international flights. So what can you leave out of what you do need to keep? Think about the things that are going to make your life easier. I always pack multiple Ziploc bags in multiple sizes. Mm-hmm. You never know when you're going to buy something abroad that might be delicate and you're going to need to pack it away. I remember somebody on our trip bought some perfume, and the first thing she did was put it in a Ziploc bag when she packed it, and then padded it in her suitcase so that even if it did break, it wouldn't spill all over. Right. Tissue packs, antibacterial gel. I joked that after we went to Pompeii, I really didn't want to buy an ice cream feeling like I had just touched things that were covered in dead Etruscans. So you want to have some of your antibacterial gel, insect repellent, sunblock. Even on a cloudy day, you can get a nasty burn. So sunblock, hat. If you have any health issues, particularly related to circulation, you might want to consider, particularly on a long flight, if you're going from the East Coast to Hawaii, or if you're going to Europe, or if you're just traveling a long way, you might want compression socks or compression stockings to help prevent a deep vein thrombosis, any kind of blood clot. So we don't like thinking about things like that, but having a list of things that could help you be more comfortable. We all know whether we're high maintenance or low maintenance, what we might need. And so each of our lists are going to be different.
Well, gosh, so that was the list of all other stuff, but I think we still have some more lists, don't we?
Right. That's all a list about what to take.
What to take. You know what? We're out of time now, so we're going to have to do a second part to this show. But before we go, can you tell people what services you provide and how they get a hold of you?
Okay. Well, my company is Best Results Organizing. You can find me at juliebestry.com. And I'm a certified professional organizer. I work with residential, home office, and small business clients in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area, and some virtually.
Awesome. What now? And also, are there any? I know we talked about Smead has some checklists. If you go to smead.com/checklists, are there any other checklists for the stuff part of this that you want to refer people to?
Absolutely, especially if you're going internationally, you want to look at Rick Steves' packing list. A lot of people know Rick Steves' PBS specials about packing. Okay. Eagle Creek, that makes those packing cubes, has a great ultimate travel checklist. And something that a lot of people don't know about is there's a very basic looking website called Travels Interactive, and you're going to have that to give to people. Right. But they have a checklist that lets you put in things like the gender of the person traveling and what the weather is going to be like, and you can just pick from a bunch of drop downs and it will generate a customized list for you.
That is awesome. Well, we'll include those links in our show notes, and then we'll have you back next time for part 2 of this essential list for getting organized on a travel or on trip, coming up next time on Keeping You Organized.